Welcome to a brand new wave, drowning out the noise that's tame. Liberty whispers through the brave, breaking free from every chain. Nullify the rules they crave, crypto beats that pave the way. Anarchy with minds that's safe, algorithms new dawn today. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride. Beyond control we take a stand, casting off the iron brand. Freedom flowing through our hands, revolution's our command. Decentralize the way we plan, all together we expand. Breaking shackles for the clan, in this journey we're unpanned. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride.
Welcome in to another edition of Silver Linings.
It's certainly silver. It's
I don't
certainly
know.
linings.
Yeah, what's the silver lining? Why don't we take it to the countdown? We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Welcome back, everybody. I am the legacy of Jennifer Kaiser. I am Zach Augustine for you that are in the crowd that are Catholic. And that's Andrew Joseph. Greg is not with us. Maybe he'll jump in. Who knows? But we are going to do something today that sparks into a journey that dives into the mind, the philosophy, the ontological outputs of everything that is coming out of Greg's mind. So, and one aspect is, and he's been on a spiel of this, is the causal effect of everything from what is outside of us to what is internal. And so that's where we're going to start there, Andrew. I'm going to ask you the question: how does causation stimulate the effect of the mind?
Well, I mean, I suppose it's about inputs and outputs, but you know, our mind is here to interpret different things, and I saw a video on YouTube about it a couple weeks ago. They were saying, it was really kind of questioning free will. Is it they was telling people what to do, like in the experiment, but their mind had already kind of preconceived it before they actually understood and interpreted what they were supposed to be doing. So I don't know any further detail behind that. I just know that's what they was talking about in the video. I thought that's kind of interesting.
Well, about that, let's get into the free will aspect. I mean, when it comes down to it, nobody really knows truly how the mind actually works. We have certainly perceived certain notions. There are different triggers of how the brain is active. Um, but what is it to you when it comes to free will? Do we have a free will? Is there a two-pronged fork, so to speak, where we go one direction or the other? Or is there or is it just all instinct and all electrodes and just we're just a circuit board effectively?
Well, I mean, I think maybe there's some degree of truth to the circuit board type of thinking. I mean, it's about the energy around us and what we think we can do and not do, and how people push and pull, and it's really, case by case basis, obviously. But I don't think it's 100% that specifically. I think it's a gradient.
Yeah, a little bit of each. This is where we have to utilize the reason aspect, right? We can pull a little bit of each from different perspectives, right? One perspective says this, one perspective says this, and says that. Why can't they both come together, right? Why can't we unify both perspectives and understand that maybe the truth is in both of your sides?
Yeah. God help us all. And he calls himself a Catholic.
I mean, I guess theoretically you could use the Trinity for this, but let's not.
I thought that was. Yeah, I was thinking more of the Wolfpack mentality. Yeah.
Let's not do that.
Yeah.
Let's not do that. You know what this symbol is actually?
What? Go ahead.
Ain't this the devil horn, ain't it? Ain't this the Illuminati symbol?
I always thought it was Wolfpack for life.
I mean, they did call themselves the New World Order.
In wrestling.
The New World Order for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching from home. Are we ready to get into this? Why don't we let Greg explain through his fancy AI audio book visual of his latest article that he released. Actually, he released a number, and what is it? I would go look for Greg Lang on Substack, Design Heretic, and dive into his work yourself. It's all there for free. You can even he even has it to where you can download the PDF and have it stored, so you can have it stored for yourself for any time. You don't have to go to Substack to read it, but he also allows you to be able to listen to it. For all of us with the tiny attention span minds, where it's hard for us to read, you can listen in your car, in your bedroom, whatever, wherever you like to listen to your audiobooks. When you're at the doing a workout at the gym, on a walk, doesn't matter, right? So should we let Greg explain what we're about today there, Andrew?
Sure, sounds good to me.
The paper has spoken.
Spoken Word Guide. Chrontopological Information Geometry. Fisher Structure.
I'd like to say, what is your thoughts on the voice over here, Andrew? Kind of soothing.
It's definitely, fluid.
Let's just hope that it doesn't put us to sleep, because that voice is pretty soothing.
Distinguishability and the emergence of metric from causality. Part 1. What this paper does. Paper 1 is where geometry first appears. Not because geometry was assumed, because it falls out. That is the whole point. Chrontopology does not begin with space. It does not begin with a metric. It does not begin with coordinates. It does not begin with a background stage on which events happen. It begins with events, causal relations, finite bandwidth, and the entropy cost of making distinctions. That is all. Paper 1 shows that once those are given, geometry is no longer optional. It emerges. Part 2. The foundational move. The central move of the paper is simple and severe. Instead of asking, what is the distance between 2 points? It asks, what is the minimum entropy required to distinguish 2 nearby states? That is a very different primitive. Distance is not assumed. Distinguishability is. And once distinguishability becomes the primitive observable, geometry can be reconstructed as the local structure of how hard it is to tell one thing from another. That is the bridge. Not geometry first and information later. Information first, geometry after. Part 3. Distinguishability as the primitive observable. Paper 1 takes 2 nearby states, not arbitrary abstractions, nearby causal states. Then it asks, how costly in entropy terms is it to tell them apart? That cost is the fundamental observable. This is crucial. The theory is not saying that geometry is secretly statistics in some loose, metaphorical way. It is saying something more exact. What we later call geometric separation is the local expression of distinguishability cost. If 2 states are easy to distinguish, they are far apart in this informational sense. If they are hard to distinguish, they are close. Distance is no longer a primitive. It is a derived cost. Part 4. Why the local structure becomes quadratic. Once you look at very small perturbations, something remarkable happens. The distinguishability cost takes on a quadratic form. That matters because quadratic local structure is exactly what a metric looks like when you zoom in close enough. So the paper is not sneaking in a metric. It is showing that if distinguishability is smooth enough locally, the first non-trivial term in its expansion has the exact structure needed for metric geometry. That is the emergence step. Geometry appears because nearby distinctions organize themselves in a metric-like way. Part 5. Why the Fisher metric appears. Now the paper names the local metric. It is Fisher information. This is not arbitrary. It is the natural object that measures how sensitive.
We have a question of what there, Andrew. Would you like to answer it?
I mean, I know I can kind of pick up what he's saying to a degree, but even myself, I'm not entirely, I don't have a full context of the whole argument, what he's trying to say.
So what you're saying is Greg needs to come down a little bit. See, everybody, this is Greg. Go on.
Oh, I was just saying. I mean, I can distinguish what he's saying, but it's so narrow point to point, it's hard to kind of flesh out fully what he's talking about.
This everybody, see, this is your brain. All right. Or I'm sorry. No. My brain is your brain. This is Greg's brain. Watch this. Over the head. Over the head. But anyways, Andrew, before we dive further in here, do you have anything to say at the start of this little prologue, the premise? Do you have something to premise off of what he's seemingly gathering upon? Because it seems to me that as we're diving into the concept of entropy and geometrics, and we're trying to formulate this within the human mind, and we're trying to outlayer it to the rest of the world onto a capacity to understand that everything is dealt with in a causal relationship. So it just comes back to the basic premise of it all, really, cause and effect, right? For every
The
cause,
building blocks, yeah.
yeah,
He's talking about the I guess you could say it's the building blocks of our brain's ability to, create action.
Any more there, Elisha?
I mean, like I said, it's kind of narrow, so it's hard to. He's going from different subjects and topics pretty rapidly. So
He is. So to put it in lame, simple terms, then should I apply the joke then, the biblical humor?
Sure.
So a causal effect would be Andrew, who is bald, is walking down the road en route to Bethel. All right, we'll call him Elisha here, and he's on his route to Bethel, and a whole boatload of young strapling lads run over to him and start making fun of his baldness. And with that, Andrew curses them and says, "Oh, you better not do such a thing. Do not proclaim your hatred towards my baldness. Do not make fun of my hairlessness." And from there, two bears appear. And all these young lads, they're still pointing their fingers and saying, "Oh, whatever, old man, you bald son of a gun." And the next thing you know, two bears show up and just devours all how many were there? About 48? All 48 of them. Kills them dead. Eats them. Done. Then they disappear. The two bears leave. And then Andrew just walks down on his route, on his merry way to Bethel, like nothing happened. What is the causal and effect of that situation there, Andrew?
I suppose you could say they say go on a bald head, and I did.
They said go on bald head, and you went on your merry way. And what happened to them? Well, there's your effect, right? You went on your merry way. The cause was they insulted you. The effect was they ended up dead, and you went on your merry way.
Yes, sir.
So where is the underlying factor?
I'll have to answer that in heaven, but until that point.
I mean, allegedly your bones heal people.
Got to benefit somehow.
So the bones of Elisha, the prophet Elisha, aka Andrew Joseph. So anyways, let's dive into this and have our heads blow up even more, everybody. Thanks, Greg.
All right.
A distribution is to changes in parameters. In plain language, how much does the observable world change when the underlying causal state changes a little? That sensitivity is the metric. So the Fisher metric is not imported from statistics as a decorative tool. It is the local quadratic form of distinguishability itself. That is why the paper says the metric is sensitivity of distinguishability. Curvature is variation in distinguishability, and distance is the minimal entropy required to resolve a difference. That is the heart of the paper. Part 6. Finite bandwidth changes everything. Paper 1 then imposes finite bandwidth.
Actually, let's stop there about the finite bandwidth before we go any further. Your mind runs on a bandwidth. So there's the imaginative and the creative, which is the high quality for where you see for what is reality and expand upon it. And that's how we articulate, specifically through language. When we pre-oppose the aspect of high bandwidth and reinforce it to something that's of a lower standard, especially in language, we lose that essence of creativity. We lose that imaginative speak, that the various ways of how we articulate through our mind and actually think and go through the layer. We become less layered within our mental capacity of how we think, do, speak, and act. And so how do we get ourselves into this circumstance in our reality today to where we have effectively dumbed ourselves down into this low bandwidth or finite disposal of language and thought process, imagination, creativity? How did we come to this to where we're no longer thinking outside the box? And that's what I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask that question to you, Andrew.
Well, I think, it's really it falls down to two paths. You can go in a lean path where you run very efficiently, all pistons and are running and firing, or you can go where the whole system is kind of clunky and it works in an operative way, but it's very poorly managed, put together, irresponsible, maybe you could say. And so it's what Greg is talking about here is, I think it's an attempt to operating in a very lean way. It's trying to be maximum efficiency with the resources that are available, versus, like I said, a very clunky system, which is, it's kind of like what's going on in Iran right now. How Iran is doing the best they can with as little amount of resources as possible to survive, versus the United States, which is throwing everything it can at the wall to see what will stick to try to get them to fall down and capitulate. And that is the distinction. What he's talking about here is that they're trying, and his system is trying just to build momentum and survive, versus oh yeah, well, we're just losing money left and right because we're not responsible.
Almost like a dark night of the soul. It's very hard for people to contemplate upon the philosophical and the spiritual notion of what is reality, but you have to be willing to go full scale into the darkness in order to escape into the light. And right now, I think in our day and age, we're heading into the darkness, but we're so fearful of said darkness that we're not willing to dive in and stay the course. So we jump right back out where it's still light, but we're not at the end. We're trying. It's like a tunnel. See, You got to get through the tunnel to get to the other side down the road, but it's dark in there.
Right.
And it's scary. And there's bats that might fly off and touch your face, maybe poop a little bit on you. That's a little bit of the fear. Who wants to get pooped on by a bat? Let's say they're vampire bats too, so they might suck your blood. And it's kind of scary. But you have to go through the tunnel in order to get to the other side. Are you willing to go through the dark tunnel to get to the other side?
I think that's a pretty good idea. And recognition of what he's talking about, yeah.
And so that goes
Reflection.
back to then that goes back to the concept of bandwidth, high bandwidth to low bandwidth. The low bandwidth is keeping you from coming outside of yourself to become your true self, to be creative, to think outside the box. The high bandwidth is you walking into that dark tunnel, no fear. You're scared, but you do not show it because you're being courageous. Now, courage is not the lack of fear. Courage is the action that I'm not going to show it.
Oh.
And so that's where your creativity lies, and that's where your true self is by going through that dark, scary tunnel and coming out the other side. And I think that's where we're lacking. We're too scared to swallow it and just go. We want to do it, but it's scary.
Yeah. And sometimes we have more courage than we can know what to do with, and as a result of that, we mismanage the whole situation.
So let us dive back in. Jeez, oh Pete, we're not even 6 minutes into this.
This is where chrontopology becomes visibly different from any fantasy of unlimited distinction. Not every mode contributes. Only the infrared-supported ones do. The ultraviolet does not vanish because it is unimportant in some rhetorical sense. It vanishes because the system does not have the capacity to distinguish it. That means the geometry is coarse-grained from the start. It is not a perfect, infinitely resolved manifold that later gets blurred. It is inherently band-limited. The geometry you get is already the geometry of what can actually be distinguished. That point cannot be overstated. It means the metric is physically disciplined from the beginning. Part 7. Distance reinterpreted. Now the paper returns to distance. But distance no longer means length in a pre-given space. It means the least entropy cost required to move from one distinguishable state to another along an admissible path. That is a radical reinterpretation. Distance is no longer just how far apart things are. It is how much it costs to tell them apart continuously. This makes geometry operational in a deep sense. You do not need to imagine a ruler suspended in empty space. You need only ask what it takes to resolve difference under finite causal bandwidth. Part 8. Geodesics become cheapest distinction paths. Once distance is defined this way, geodesics follow naturally. A geodesic is the path of least distinguishability cost. In ordinary geometry, a geodesic is the shortest path. Here, the shortest path means the least expensive path in informational terms. So geodesics become the routes along which change is cheapest to resolve. This is beautiful because it means natural motion can be read as motion that follows the grain of least informational resistance. Not because nature loves elegance, because any system operating under finite bandwidth will preferentially continue along paths that are cheapest to track and distinguish. Part 9. Curvature means non-uniform distinguishability. Curvature also changes meaning. In Paper 1, curvature is not a mysterious bending of a pre-existing stage. It is the variation of distinguishability across the state space. Flat geometry means distinguishability changes uniformly. Curved geometry means distinguishability changes unevenly. This is a much more disciplined notion than the usual story, because it tells you exactly what curvature is tracking, not shape in a visual sense, but the changing cost of informational separation. So geometry is not visualized first and interpreted second. It is operational first and only later visualized if you insist. Part 10. Why this becomes physics. Paper 1 then makes the decisive escalation. If metric comes from distinguishability, and curvature comes from variation in distinguishability, then dynamics can be reconstructed from informational constraints. That means physics emerges from information geometry, not in the vague pop science sense that information is important, in the strict sense that once distinguishability under finite bandwidth is taken seriously, the structures we call metric, curvature, and dynamics are no longer separate primitives. They become derived. This is where chrontopology first starts to look like a true replacement architecture. Part 11. Why quantum behavior appears. Paper 1 also sketches the quantum connection. If distinguishability is finite, then there are limits to how sharply nearby states can be resolved. That means uncertainty is not an add-on. It is a direct consequence of finite Fisher information. In plain language, if the geometry itself is made out of distinguishability cost, and distinguishability is finite, then uncertainty is built in from the start. Quantum behavior is then reread not as spooky indeterminacy, but as the natural consequence of trying to resolve more than the information geometry allows. This is still only the beginning of that thread, but the seed is planted here. Part 12. Why spacetime is not fundamental. Paper 1 ends by making the long-term consequence explicit. Spacetime is not the primitive stage. It comes later. Later papers will show that the spacetime metric is a Fisher metric over causal states, that gravity can be understood as curvature in distinguishability, and that distance itself is entropy cost. Paper 1 does not fully derive all of that yet. What it does is establish the bridge. Once that bridge is built, there is no need to assume space-time first. Information geometry already did the work. Part 13. Why this paper matters. This is one of the quiet hinge papers. It does not sound dramatic if you describe it carelessly. But what it accomplishes is huge. It takes one of the most basic pieces of the physical world, geometry itself, and refuses to assume it. Then it shows how it reappears anyway. That is a major test of any foundational theory. If your framework can derive geometry from a smaller primitive base, and do it without cheating, then you are no longer just offering philosophical atmosphere. You are rebuilding the stack. Paper 1 does that. Part 14. Final compression. Chrontopology begins with causal order and finite distinguishability. From that, it derives the local quadratic structure of distinguishability cost. That structure is Fisher information. From Fisher information come distance, curvature, and the path structure of natural evolution. So geometry is not fundamental. It is what causal distinguishability looks like when examined locally under finite bandwidth. That is the whole paper, and it is enough to change almost everything downstream. Shortest compression distance is not primitive. It is what it costs to tell one nearby causal state from another. Hard compression geometry is the local shape of distinguishability. Margin line spacetime is not the stage. It is the shadow cast by finite causal distinguishability.
With that, oh, there we go.
There we
We're in our
go.
little box. We're in our little box. So with that,
Our little echo chamber.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, hello.
So pretty much what I was doing in between is I was actually placing it into Copilot to try to elaborate a little bit, and I asked a simple question. I had it elaborate. I had it break down the file, then I had it elaborate a little bit, and then I asked this one little question to kind of sum it up, because this is what I gathered. And if you don't have to agree, Andrew. Nobody has to agree, but this is where I kind of sum it up. Kind of diving a little bit more on the philosophical edge, where Greg is more pulling from the mathematics and the quantum the actual quantum standard physics idea, the geometry. He's going at it from the mathematical standpoint, conjoining it with the philosophical. I'm coming at it from a more spiritually resounding philosophical nature in the epistemological and ontological notion, right? So this is what I got. Okay, can you see that? I'll just read it.
A little bit.
So, there we go. But anyways, I brought in, see, it has a little bit of math. So a little bit of math involved, like finite bandwidth, part 6, the coarse graining mechanism, introduces a Fisher suppressor kernel, which is F S multiplied by K. Then there's your equation. I'm not going to go dive into it. Why? Because I'm not a mathematician. I see numbers, I see letters, I see equations. I'm a dumbass. So how about yeah. So, but this does 3 things. IR modes dominate, UV distinctions vanish, geometry becomes inherently coarse grain. So what is the distance equal entropy cost? So you define distance. There's your distance model equation. The distance is the minimal entropy required to distinguish two states. This is a profound interpretation of metric geometry. So effectively, in a natural evolutionary state, geodesics, as he is calling, is a minimized distinguishability cost, which is the shortest path will always equal the least entropy cost. So the natural evolution will equal the minimal information change. So effectively, when you sit at a lower bandwidth in societal mindset within your brain, when you're sitting within the box rather than going outside of it, you tend to fall in line to being contained. So you're a flock of sheep. Let's just use this as an example. You're the flock of sheep that doesn't get the ability to be released out into pasture. You are contained no matter what within the fenced-in area. The gate never opens. So whereas when you think of this into a high bandwidth idea, you are going more infinite. You're allowing for a dispersal of the flock of sheep to be released in accordance to the laws of physics outside of that barrier into what it could be innumerous. So, and so to sum it all up, right? I actually asked, I said, so what Greg is attempting to explain is that the lower the bandwidth, the farther we become from living out our creativity of purpose, right? So this is what I get from Copilot. Like I said, disagree. It's AI. I mean, it's pulling, but it's mostly pulling from both my thoughts from earlier conversations with it, pulling from the internet and other sources, and it's basically putting it all together. Right? So take what you will with it. But low bandwidth reduces the distinguishability of states, and creativity requires high distinguishability. So you want to become beyond yourself if you're trying to reach that higher quality within your creative self. So creativity equals the ability to generate and navigate finely distinguished states. So in a chrontopological model, as Greg would put it, a state is a causal configuration. Distinguishability between states is measured by entropy cost. High Fisher information equals high sensitivity in differences. So in essence, creativity in any meaningful sense requires a noticing subtle distinction, generating new distinctions, so going beyond, thinking outside the box, moving throughout a high resolution state space. So creating what is allegedly finite and beyond our comprehension, and trying to go beyond within our understanding within cognition to go beyond in creativity to try to explain away things. This is basically philosophy 101. That's what we're trying to figure out when we're diving into a philosophical idea. What does low bandwidth do within that state space is collapse. So your finite bandwidth or your low bandwidth kernel FSK suppresses high frequency or high resolution modes. Only IR modes contribute, UV distinctions vanish. So in our simple terms, our very simplistic
human terms,
since me and Andrew are retards, to say it plainly in retard terms, subtle differences disappear. Fine-grained structure collapses. The space of possible actions become coarse. They become rough. It's hard to go beyond anything that is contained within a field that is trapped in an echo bubble, pretty much. Like take Twitter, for example. What does Twitter, like, take Twitter, for example there, Andrew. Like, what does Twitter usually refine people into within their different niches, within different topics, within their forum style of their site.
It's usually just a platform for people to preach, as far as I know. I don't use it too terribly much, but that does seem to be the general lay of the land, is that people find something controversial and then they get a whole bunch of people, up in arms, and then everyone preaches about it for about 2 or 3 days, and then maybe a week sometimes.
Preaching back.
Comes up.
You go on there, you hear somebody preaching, and then you bitch and you moan and you preach yourself, and that's all the comments are, and it's all negative because it contains people into different echo chambers, and then when the echo chambers eventually get released into one of the threads, and there's multiple people escaping their echo chamber, then you get a void of space that's uncreative, very backlash and negative in the thinking and the articulation. Nobody goes beyond because, well, what you're saying is against what I think because this is what I was told. And this is the danger of low bandwidth. We're trapped on the capacity. We're trapped in a field where we take advantage of capacity of our mind, and we think that we're only what we are, instead of going beyond that cognition and understanding that you can think, you can articulate, you can wonder, you can expand on, and you can have an opinion, a perspective that can conjoin into another various perspective, and then you can find the truth within an inkling of different truths. Even if it's hard to find truths, you will find the truth sprinkled within. Because that's how perspective works, because that's how our understanding is, because we're very finite beings in our mortal corpses and our physical bodies. So
it seems.
Yeah, so basically what happens is, in a low bandwidth structure, we become overwhelmed, we are highly distracted, and that causes for a cognitive overload, where there's so much coming at us, we don't know how to organize it and distribute it. So we emotionally shut down, and we can do this in one of two ways as we go into a survival mode, which is fight or flight. We can either fight, argue, bitch, and moan, or we run away. And that is literally what we do in nature, and that is what we do with the internet. And that is literally what we do when we find ourselves overloaded with so much coming at us. It is a threat. So we perceive such as a threat. So then everybody becomes an enemy. And what do we do with enemies there, Andrew?
We dominate them.
Yeah. I mean, you can, many people will like do exactly what you said. They will dominate. You attempt to dominate them in order to reap your perspective as the dominating feature. Or what do most people actually do? Now, the internet is vile because we think we're anonymous. So there is that domination feature, but what do we typically do in the real world as humans?
Usually, if we're in person, we don't really do a lot. We just try to run away.
Oh, I hit my head.
It's all right.
But yeah. In the real world,
we back down.
Yeah, in the real world, we usually do back down because we don't like confrontation. We like to socialize. We're social creatures, but we do not like confrontation. So the causal relationship here that we should be intersecting, and we'll go through more. And I think this is probably the next stage of silver linings, right? Because I think all of this combines into one silver lining, and it is human beings needing to recapture the essence of what it truly means to be your true self, to find your purpose in such a very distractive and a this in a very stressful world, and that is to understand that all of us humans are fearful. So what are you going to do about it? How are you going to strive? How are you going to fight that fear?
Well, it's really hard in the moment, I'm certain. I mean, I don't think it's something. It's something that's. It's very difficult, for you to come off the edge of the ledge, because you could just jump right into it and really, pay the consequences. Or you could try to fight yourself, if you're really going through it, and try to, negotiate if you're really trying to keep some kind of bridge up of a line of communication. But that can be very, very difficult. Impulse control can be a bit sometimes.
We're flapping between people coming and going and checking, and now everybody, people left when I was preaching, but Andrew, you brought them back in, buddy.
I try.
It's because of the baldness, actually. That's the
It's my
fine
best
line.
feature.
That's the silver lining. When in doubt, everybody, find yourself a best friend that's bald, and let the aura and the power of the baldness bring love into this world. I think that's what we're gonna see as we're diving more into chrono. How does he say that?
Chrontopology.
Yeah, chronotopology. I think that's what we're gonna discover. When it all comes down to it, the root is grace, justified by the faith through your acts of an inner quality of love. When it comes down to it, it all comes back to love. How do you treat your fellow man? How do you treat yourself? How do you find time to even say to yourself, I love you, man? Because I think in today's day and age, we're so distracted, and there's so much information compacting at us that we lose sight of what is truly meaningful, and we fall into despair, and the only thing that echoes through our mind is this world is trash and I'm trash, and if I'm not up to this level, and I don't have this much money, or I don't have this prestigious job, or I'm not invested in these products of the market making more and more money, or I don't have this car, or whatever, we end up looking down upon ourselves because we're looking to the outside world as the example of what we're supposed to be. And in reality, what is supposed to be is just life. And understand it's the best example is that you have life. If there is a great God up there, he created you, he breathed life into you, and he granted you the greatest gift of them all. What are you going to do with that life? Doesn't matter if you're a big shot, LeBron James style, $1 billion a year athlete. You could be the smallest of the small, but you still have meaning. Go on, Andrew.
I was just going to say, just because you have this built towards escape velocity, which is good, understanding as to what this could possibly be, interpreted as, doesn't mean it's the right time to use it.
Any more there, buddy? I know you got more.
Well, I mean,
you are an encyclopedia, and you need to open up and allow the encyclopedia to come out.
Well, I mean, we build. They call it escape velocity because they're talking about escaping the boundaries between outer space and Mother Earth, right? For if you was to try to get off on a with a rocket, you need escape velocity for a rocket, and so if you go too soon, you might just fumble the whole situation, and if you go too late, you're not coming back because it's too late. You kind of aged out. So you had to be lean, and it's like what he's talking about in the video here. Is you had to be right on the money and do it right at the right time. And this kind of was talked about before about you being overwhelmed and stuff like that. That's because you weren't doing things in the right order. You weren't being lean.
If you want more of this content, and Greg, honestly, I've gotten updates. He's just flying through more articles after more articles. You can follow along. You can read Design Heretic over on Substack. Search Greg Lang. And you can also go to a website called quantumriver.world, because this is a startup idea that's trying to venture out, and a budding venture. It's a budding venture of trying to extrapolate all of this negative, all of the distractions, all of this self-loathing into one concept, and that is the essence of discovering your true self on a higher quality rather than staying complacent within a lower framework. It's high and low bandwidth. It's standard to the quantum. It's entering into a river. It's seeing the river and crossing that river, or not even crossing that river, jumping on the boat and sailing that river to where the end is, and that river just so happens to be endless. It's infinite, and it's discovering you. So check out quantumriver.world. There is a newsletter you can also sign up for, and start reapplying your mind cognitively so that you can articulate it better in language and creativity, so you can strive to try to find that true self that's hidden and woven underneath all that muck of distraction and overwhelming behavior and all that fear that society that it is today has forced us into.
Yes, sir.
But I think that's probably a great spot to end. Where this is probably the shortest podcast that we've ever actually done in a while. There, Andrew, what was the shortest pod that we ever did?
I think it's 45 minutes was the shortest we've ever done. So this is not pushing it too much, but it'll survive. We got about an hour's worth here. Yeah.
Yeah, so I promise you, everybody, go check out Greg Lang on Substack, Design Heretic. I don't remember the actual. I guess it's designheretic.substack.com. Maybe it's reverse. I don't know.
We'll put it in the description.
We'll put it in the description. We'll go back and put it in the description. Check the description below. And I think that's the journey that we're going to take. I think we're going to take that every week from right here. We're going to go dissect painstakingly his articles that go over our heads. Thanks, Greg. Love you, buddy.
It's not his fault. He's an incredibly intelligent person. So,
and we're mere simple retards, and that's all. That's wonderful. We need intelligent people to lead the flock of retards.
Colt meat with extra cheese.
Oh man!
If you know that, you know that. It's a reference.
Well, Andrew, where can they find us? What can they do if they like this content?
Well, check us out on X. I'm not really active on there too much, but I'm always open if you want to send me a message at AIConan90. You can find that in the description as well. Mm-hmm. Zach is more active on social media than I am at Legacy Zach.
I'm hardly on social media anymore. Take a break from social media. Take a break. Don't let it define your life, everybody, because that's another thing. When we're talking about high bandwidth and low bandwidth, what is the causal relationship to social media when you spend so much time diving down the rabbit hole of the endless scroll and the algorithms? Well, it's going to bring you nothing but pain and depression, and because it's a distraction to distract you from what's life is really about, to contain you into this endless debauchery of ads and algorithms, and entrap you into echo chambers and touch grass. Basically, what I'm trying to say, it's best to touch grass and go see real friends, go touch people, go talk to your family, your friends, go have sex with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, girls, or your husband, wife, go on a date, go to church,
Have a good time.
go to the movies, have a good time. Don't have sex with your wife at church, all right? I know, Andrew, you want that to happen.
How did you know?
I know it, dude. Your sinful sexual desires.
Yeah.
I'm like Saint Padre Pio. I can see your soul. I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, damn, I can't wait. I need to get off this podcast so I can go bang my neighbor right now. Who's 80.
Well,
She is 80.
I mean,
I'm talking about your neighbor across the street. She's a nice lady.
she is very nice.
She's a very wonderful lady. We joke, but she's a wonderful lady. I only joke with Andrew. But yeah, that's about it. What else on the itinerary there, Andrew?
Check us out next Thursday, World Blockchain Roundtable. Be joining for another astounding episode. It'll be fun. Always have fun with William and the gang. So
We'll do. That is at 10 a.m. Central. Yeah, that's 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, live every week on X, on YouTube. I think it's even on LinkedIn. I think it's even on Twitch. But World Blockchain Roundtable. It's part of the Dragon Chain Network channel on YouTube. And then check us out. Make sure if you like this content, like, subscribe. If you want some more, ring that bell, because YouTube shenanigans. We're also on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple, anywhere you get your podcast. And if you would like to become a sponsor, become part of our shareholder board so we can expand this, make you a part. We want to create something that actually makes you literally like a shareholder, like your investment, and then you name us off the topics. So like if we have a plan to do our own thing, but you want us to talk about something else, well then shit. I guess we got to make the audible, Andrew, and make the shareholders happy.
right.
That's the beauty of community, right?
Yeah.
Make the shareholders happy on the positive sense, not the corporate sense where it is kind of a detriment on society. So,
I believe.
but you see the links down below if you'd like to become a sponsor, a shareholder, a part of this podcast. But other than that, I think that's it. Should we just go silent, or do we show the Bitcoin?
Let's show the Bitcoin. Maybe he can date my neighbor.
He is 80 years old, man. You're sick. See, sexual sin, dude. This is everything that's on his mind, bro. Why, Andrew? You need to go to confession. Confess your sins. Go before the priest. Go before the priest to be presented and proclaimed clean.
Yes, sir.
And Jesus will heal you. I don't know.
Thanks.
Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.
Enjoy your weekend.
Bitcoin, baby.
Hey, yeah, this is Bitcoin. I'm back.
Get out of the car. What are you doing in there?
The king of the rap shit.
Get out the car. What you got there?
I'm back in this Bitcoin, baby. I'm back in this bitch. Flossing fast cars and rolling with my clique. The king of the rap shit, the real OG. Whack ass rappers got nothing on me. Bought another Lambo, 3 hoes inside it, 10 hoes in line, ready to ride it. It's Bitcoin, bitch. Keep the track bumping. Really on the plug. I got pies in the oven. 80 years old, and your baby mama fond of me. All she wanna do is smoke my broccoli. Private jets from Rome to Ibiza. Lisa, Jenny, Julie, and Maria. Every day I gotta give thanks. I got Bitcoins in the bank. Bitcoin, baby. I'm back in this bitch.
Bitcoin, baby. Oh,
I'm a bad motherfucker.
Bitcoin, baby.
Goddamn it, get out of the car. What you doing in there?
The king of the rap shit.
Get out of the car. What you got there?
I'm back in this bitch. Axe your grandmother. Verse 2, coming with the gin and the juice. Call me a dragon. Spit flame in the boot. I'm hot, like a thermos full of coffee. So hot, can't get the hose off me. It's true, I got the weed card and shit. I'm smoking like a motherfucking chimney, kid. Bitches love me. My shit's never whack. Tell these motherfuckers Bitcoin's back.
Bitcoin, baby.
I'm a bad motherfucker.
Hot like hot coffee. Oh,
Axe your grandmother.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Goddamn it, get out of the car. What you doing in there?
The king of the rap shit.
Get out the car. What you got there?
I'm back in this bitch.
Get your hands in the air. Put your hands on the car. Put your two hands on the rock. Put your two hands on the rock.
Bitcoin, baby.